Tony Capaccio, Bloomberg Pentagon national security reporter, who has his hands on the report. This is, what, 80-something pages long?
84 pages, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you saw portions of this yesterday. Are we learning more today that we didn't know?
See portions.
Okay.
We were given. We were
someone who did talk to you.
Someone who saw it gave us and other media. So I don't want to overplay that.
Absolutely. But you're looking at these documents now. How much more of a complete picture do we have?
It's somewhat more complete and somewhat more distressing. So it's 84 pages, but not every page is laced with gold. For the viewers here, they want to look at page 25, page 14, basically. Those are the kind of the meat. On page 25, it says the Secretary's communication of non-public DoD information created additional risks to U.S. forces and missions. And the killer quote is in that page. But bottom line is, this showed that the Secretary of War or Defense, whatever you want to call it, was cavalier in his use of this information. This is clearly classified, battle of war, a time on target, F-18s hitting XYZ timeframes. And he sent this stuff out on Signal 2 to 4 hours before the operations began. That was new to me. It's just a very cavalier notion. And then in his very cocky letter to the IG, basically thumbing his nose, saying that no classified information was sent.
Right.
March 25th, he said the same thing. I didn't text war plans to the media. Well, this report, sir, shows that he was not telling the truth.
But it also indicated he had the authority to declassify.
Yeah, he had the authority to declassify.
So how do we rationalize these two findings?
The IG thought they were silent on the issue whether he should have declassified or could declassify.
Okay.
Excuse me. They acknowledged that he was a declassifying authority, but they didn't get into that issue. It was more what he did send out potentially could have caused risk to pilots. The Houthis don't have great electronic warfare capabilities to divine into signals, Signalgate, but the possibility was there, and it's clearly his actions potentially put U.S. airmen at risk.
Well, and of course, the reason why we know about this is because a journalist was inadvertently added by Michael Waltz, the former national security advisor. To what extent, then, is Pete Hegseth implicated? Because the chain was already there, right? And there were two different chains. We should be clear about this. One had cabinet officials. The other, he had friends and family on.
Yeah, the second one they barely discussed, and it was like a blink of an eye. That just wasn't a highlight of the report.
Was that an existing thread before these battle plans were put forth?
What, the first or second?
The one that had the reporter on it, the one that had the Atlantic editor.
My impression was no. He set that up after he got the info. And in fact, the report makes the case that he actually had access to a secure facility. They call it a SCIF.
Yes.
He had access to the facility to send the same material out. But yeah, the point here is that he denied it was classified information. The IG was pretty clear that it was classified information, and that putting it out there created additional risks to U.S. forces and missions. I mean, I'll say
as a point of fact, not could have. Are you
reading that? As a point of fact, yeah. And let me read it. Even though these events did not ultimately occur, the Secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots.
He's reading directly from the IG report.
Yeah, that's on page 25.
So I'll read directly from the statement from Senator Roger Wicker, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Quote, "It is clear from the reports that the Secretary acted within his authority to communicate the information in question to other cabinet-level officials." He then goes on to write, "It's clear our senior leaders need more tools available to them to communicate classified information." So nothing to see here.
That was a gentlemanly bop and weave.
Okay.
You know.
But that would be the man to do something about it if there was a problem.
His statement effectively, in my eyes, pretty much deflates this whole issue. I mean, but, you know.
So Signalgate becomes Deflategate. That was for producer James.
There was also a football scandal called Deflategate.
I remember that well. That's what I'm saying. Yes, I unfortunately was there for that.
But the point here is that, you know, while he had the authority to do it, there's a judgment call here. Whether to do it on signaling, it's a judgment issue.
Correct. Whether it is legal, whether it is right, are two different questions.
Right.
Now, let me ask you about the other brick in the wall here, because, you know, we're talking about a potentially difficult day for Pete Hegseth. You've also got top brass, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the admiral who ordered the double tap strike on the boat coming out of Venezuela, testifying today on Capitol Hill. There are questions today, and we'll talk to Evelyn Farkas about this. At what point do these stories combine to create a weight that the SecDef cannot handle?
You know, I don't think
politically speaking,
yeah,
Tony.
I don't think the wake is going to be that big based on this report.
How about what's happening on the Hill today?
It depends on whether the Republicans come out and show some outrage. It can't be all Democrats predictably saying the guy should go. And I don't see the wake. I don't see the wake over the water coming over the ship's side.
Yeah,
I see it maybe pounding against it, but still rocking, but not capsizing.
Just a quick note where I started here. You were excised essentially from the Pentagon by not agreeing to sign this.
Exiled. Excised means I might have been assassinated.
Exiled, we'll go with, fine. Excised, I think kind of, well, listen, you choose the language you want. Would this have come out yesterday if you guys were all still in the building? I feel like reporters like you are getting more news now having left the Pentagon than you might have been getting inside the Pentagon.
No, this definitely would have come out had we been inside.
Yeah.
It would have been more contentious because we would have gone in their face and say, what about this?
Okay.
What about, and they might have come back more.
You don't think you're getting more scoops than you were before this happened?
I think the scoops are, I'm getting about the same.
Interesting.
What we're not getting, though, is access in an emergency.
Right.
If the United States struck Venezuela tonight or tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to run in and get stuff. We could grab, and we'd be dependent on emails and calls, which wouldn't be answered. And then we'd be all depending on Twitter and their babble from other places.